When I was a kid, I used to live with my grandma, and at one point I entered a talent show, like a school talent show, and I was going to be singing, and I was singing Escape by Enrique Iglesias. And I was super nervous about it. I was thinking about backing out as well, I just sort of wasn't really feeling it on the day. And my gran noticed, and she walked over and she said, well, she gave me a hug, I think, and then she said, just be yourself. Have you ever been told that before? See, it kind of feels comforting and reassuring and almost empowering at the time anyway, but it's sort of hard to put that into practice. So why is it so hard to be yourself? Let's discuss. So it kind of seems like it's a negative thing to be alone in society. Now there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. Rather than knowing oneself through external factors like family or friends or people in the job that you have or school, being alone is an important part of understanding yourself from an internal perspective. And with regards to like understanding or knowing oneself, I recommend you watch a great video called How to Know Yourself by The School of Life. I'll put the link in the description. It's really great. The other thing about being alone is that it can kind of be really tough at first, because we live in a time where there's so much consumable everything that when you're alone with your own thoughts, sometimes it can just be a very daunting place, or kind of a lonely place, or a really boring place. And because we're kind of like not used to being in that environment necessarily, not all of us, maybe some people who meditate and stuff, perhaps more than others, but because we're not used to it, we don't want to stay there. We don't want to be in that place, and therefore we can't really hear our own thoughts or take into account our own opinions as much because we're so saturated by information. But perhaps by being alone, you give yourself a better chance at hearing yourself and understanding yourself just a little bit better. Ooh, the minefield that is social media. You're updating, presenting yourself in the best possible light, in the best version of yourself, not necessarily the real version of yourself. And looking at all the people you follow, whether they're celebrities or whether they're certain influencers or just friends and family. And most of the time they're sort of showcasing their best selves or their best life. Again, not necessarily their real life. This is nothing new and everyone speaks about this, but most people speak about it, still use it, and that's okay. But what's not okay is the inevitable comparisons that come. It's designed to be addictive, and being yourself on social media is hard. Therefore, social media makes it somewhat hard to be yourself, at least for a decent portion of your day, depending on your usage. Does that make sense? I think it kind of makes sense. This is a discussion video anyway, so it doesn't have to make 100% sense. So this is what I touched upon at the beginning of the video. Judgment, the fear of judgment. And it's totally a legitimate worry. Will people make fun of who you are, or who you want to be, or the things that you like, or the things that you do? Maybe. Probably. There isn't some easy answer to this. You've just got to slowly and over time, I guess, do the things that you enjoy and be true to yourself. And the people who don't like it or don't see what you see, well, screw them. They're not necessarily the people that you want around you or the people that you should have around you. Whereas the people who understand the things that you understand and like the things that you like, or are supportive, they're the kind of people that you should surround yourself with, because they're probably seeing a version of yourself and you're okay because they're okay with it. So regards to vulnerability, two things. One, I find it really hard to say that word properly. I really have to focus on not saying vulnerability. It's a silent L. The second thing is just watch anything by Brené Brown, or read a book, or listen to a podcast, or whatever. She's the don on this subject. So how does vulnerability tie into why it's so hard to be yourself? Well, I think most of us have a fear of vulnerability rather than seeing the strength in vulnerability. I'm really trying to get this word out every time. So vulnerability, instead of it being a negative anxiety farm and stopping you doing certain things, by being vulnerable, you're literally being yourself. And not only are you being yourself, you're being a strong version of yourself. Because by being vulnerable, you're openly displaying your worries, maybe not worries, weaknesses and your fears. And that's tough. And that's hard. Very hard. But at the same time, by doing that, you're opening the window, where am I going with this? Into the house of yourself. Really like weird analogies. I guess this one kind of ties into fear of judgment, because the people judging you, you want that validation from them that what you're doing is right or is cool. You're not necessarily being yourself, you're being someone you think other people want to see. Or you're being a version of yourself that's more geared to what other people think you should be. There's quite a few people who say validation should really come from within, you know. In this circumstance, I absolutely agree with it. For sure. But that doesn't mean you should be too harsh on yourself necessarily either, like criticize or really put yourself down. I mean, there's certain people who can talk about themselves and treat themselves in a not so good way. In a bad way. And that's not good either, you know. With regards to knowing who you are and knowing yourself, perhaps you can only find that from within. I'm not sure. Or maybe an external person who could give you validation is perhaps a therapist, maybe? Or are they supposed to guide you to validate yourself? Let me know what you think. Maybe one great way to be yourself is to just embrace your uniqueness, or your weirdness. You know, one thing that I do when I'm alone, or sometimes when I'm with people as well, is I talk to myself. Like, I openly think out loud. It helps me compile my thoughts. It helps me focus on what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it just kind of feels normal to me. I don't know if anyone else thinks that's a weird thing. But I do it because I like it. Or if you're the kind of person who likes to dance when you're listening to music, but not at home, like on the street, well, then dance. Perhaps you're the kind of person who likes to clean all the cups at the office, or like organize all the cups so they're like nice and neat inside the cupboard, you know. And maybe there's a cleaner at the office and they could happily do it, but it's just something that you enjoy doing. It's just part of who you are. Do it. The do it mentality doesn't obviously extend to everything. There's some things that you certainly shouldn't do. Many things that will break the law. But the point is that you're probably embarrassed to do some of these things, and therefore that's another reason why it's hard to be yourself. If you're able to do it, if you're able to get past that, if you're able to just do those crazy things, those unique things, those weird things, and if it doesn't hurt or damage something or someone else, then absolutely go for it. We're not perfect. We all have flaws. But what are flaws? Why are they flaws? Are they all flaws? For example, I personally think that I have a big nose. So straight on, maybe not so much, but you know, the more I go to the side, the more, in my eyes and my mind, I kind of look like a Concorde on legs. It's huge. It's just, and it's got a ridge in the middle. It doesn't go like this, and I know. And it might not be attractive to some, and it might not be desirable to others, but it's a part of me, and I accept it, and I'm at peace with my big nose. I'm also going bald as well. But I accept these things about myself and about how my body is changing and my personality is changing as I get older, and as it changes depending on who I'm around and what I'm currently doing work-wise and all sorts of things. And I don't care. I don't mind them. At first I might have, but now I don't. I think practices like meditation and yoga, they really help you get into a state of acceptance. But the main thing is, once you do accept these things about yourself, it's not so hard to be yourself because you're okay with you. So as a discussion video, there wasn't necessarily a concrete answer or concrete answers or tips as to why it's so hard to be yourself. Instead, it's just something that I found interesting and wanted to talk about. I would love to know your thoughts about this, and let me know in the comments. That would be great. If anything, we can start a discussion, or we can continue the discussion going. If you found anything I've said useful, perhaps like the video. I'm a brand new channel, so that would be immensely helpful. Maybe sub if you want to discuss other topics. Otherwise, have a good day or night, wherever you are, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Ciao for now.